Good afternoon, everyone. It's a delight to have you all here. I'm Ginny Steele. I'm the University Librarian here at UCLA. We are honored to welcome you today to this event to honor Sal Castro. I would like to welcome some special guests that we have today. I would like to welcome Mario Garcia, who will be making a few remarks today. Sal Castro's widow, Charlotte, I'm going to mispronounce your last name, I apologize, Lerchenmuller.
Very good.
Okay. I'm glad it's pronounced the way it's spelled. I'd also like to welcome Chon Noriega from the Chicano Studies Research Center and also Carlos Haro from Chicano Studies Research Center. We are really pleased that you're all here and glad that this event could finally happen. It has been in the planning process for some time and now it is happening, so that makes us all very happy. I wanted today to just make a few remarks before I turn the floor over to Mario to let you know how pleased we are to have the oral history tapes done of participants in the Blowouts. This is a very important collection to us in the UCLA Library because this is material that both represents the history of Los Angeles. It also is an important addition to the collections we have that document social justice and social movements. We have a large initiative called Collecting Los Angeles that has been underway for the past 7 years or so, and we are trying to really document the life of Los Angeles and how it as a community has evolved over the years. And having these oral histories really fleshes out materials that we have in the collection, and it provides different perspectives than those that we've had in other ways. So we have the tapes here. We are going to digitize these tapes and make them accessible. And we also have an audiovisual preservation specialist in the library, so we are counting on her to help us make sure that these tapes are cared for in the best possible way. Of course, the tapes really will illuminate the work that Sal Castro started during his lifetime and will enable us to carry on his legacy and for UCLA to really help make sure that the generations to come will remember him and understand the role he played. I couldn't help but be struck by some comments that were made at a memorial service for him that talked about his sense of one's obligation to serve the local community, to provide the highest quality educational experience, to provide academic and social support, and to strengthen the educational pipeline. Sal Castro understood that community advancement is associated with educational advancement, and he understood that the lessons of our history can inform our future. That's why we want to have these materials in the library, because we want to learn from our past and make the future a better place. So again, we're very happy to have this collection. I would like now to have Professor Garcia come to the podium to make a few remarks, and I do especially want to thank him for his generosity in donating the proceeds from the purchase of the tapes to the Sal Castro Foundation. That foundation does very important work and is a wonderful cause, so we're so glad that is happening. So, Professor Garcia.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here on this very important occasion. We want to try to keep it very informal, and we've got some food and wine and all that, and so my remarks are going to be very brief. We wanted to have a short program. This is especially, I was thinking, kind of fitting to have this event today because last week we marked Sal's passing away at a special mass, and then this weekend we'll have the biannual Chicano Youth Leadership Conference, CYLC, will be taking place at Camp S. Kramer. So this is in some ways part of almost a week-long celebration of Sal's memory, of Sal Castro's memory. So I'm very honored to be here and to formally be part of the transfer of the audio tapes that I did with Sal Castro that led to the publication of the book, Blowouts, Sal Castro and the Chicano Struggle for Educational Justice. And this is the paperback. It was originally published in cloth and hard copy. It's also available as an e-book. I don't want to sound like a salesman here, but it's also an enhanced e-book. And I keep people telling people, do you know what an enhanced e-book is? I said, no, it's like an e-book. Well, it is a version of an e-book, but an enhanced e-book, and you can purchase an enhanced e-book, it has all kinds of things. It has interviews with Sal, it has some of the documents, some of the transcripts, all kinds of stuff that just really adds to your understanding and appreciation of Sal Castro's life and career. So, and we do have this, now I am going to sound like a salesman, because we do have copies of the Sal Castro book. If you don't have it, this is a good time to get it, and it's in paperback. But we also have my most recent book, and I was here just a few months ago thanks to John Noriega and Carlos Haro at the Chicano Studies Research Center. My recent book called Chicano Generation, Testimonials of the Movement, and we have that available as well. And that's an oral history book as well that deals with three key activists, all of them who mention the role that Sal Castro played. Raul Ruiz, who's involved in so many aspects of the Chicano movement here in LA, Gloria Arianes, who was the only female minister of the Raul Reyes, and Rosalio Munoz, who of course is best known as the key organizer of the Chicano anti-Vietnam War moratorium. And we're very honored, and I want to present him to you. Some of you know him, but it's a privilege to have Rosalio Munoz with us here today. There he is right there with his new cowboy hat. He lost his previous hat, and I'm glad that he's got a new one as well. Although he's got a nice head of hair. But, look at that, look at that. And for people who are not aware, of course, Rosalio made history even earlier than the Chicano anti-war movement. He was the first Chicano Latino ever elected student body president of UCLA in 1968. In 1960, not president of MECHA, but of the entire student council. Let's give Rosalio a nice hand. Anyway, I want to first of all thank, and I have some prepared comments so that they keep me on track, to thank the UCLA Library and the UCLA Chicano Studies Research Center for organizing and hosting this event. In particular, Jeannie Gerard, Carlos Jara, Rebecca Epstein, and of course, Virginia Steele, and John Noriega. In honoring me, you're really honoring a remarkable man, teacher, leader, and someone whom we deeply miss, Sal Castro. It was great to be a Chicano that day. Sal said of that day in 1968 when thousands of Chicano students walked out in protest of a legacy of inferior and discriminatory education in the East Los Angeles schools in what became the now famous Blowouts. Charismatic, courageous, and articulate, Sal inspired his students, his kids as he called them, los niños héroes, the heroic children, to stand up for themselves and say, we want to go to college. Sal was the epitome of what it means to be a teacher. He gave everything for his students, including putting his life and career on the line. He knew that the students were not the problem, and he helped empower them to realize this. Through his teaching and being a role model, he did this. He also did it by being part of and eventually leading the Chicano Youth Leadership Conferences, CYLC, at Camp S. Kramer for decades. CYLC helped inspire countless Chicano and Latino young high school students, both young men and women, to be proud of their backgrounds and to combat assaults on their dignity. They changed and became leaders. It's a tribute to Sal that through Charlotte Lerchenmuller and the Sal Castro Foundation, that CYLC has been revitalized and that a whole new generation has been inspired by the legacy of Sal Castro. In writing my book on Sal, a testimonial or life story, I spent many hours interviewing him. These were precious times as I listened to Sal talk about his life and work. He would have me in stitches through his wonderful humor. So many jokes, but all, he used humor to teach. I'm passing on these moments, close to 50 hours, by making available through the generous support of the UCLA Research Library the many audio tapes of my conversations with Sal through the Mario T. García Sal Castro Oral History Collection. These tapes will now be available to other scholars and students to learn about Sal Castro and the Chicano struggle for educational justice. The UCLA Library has been very generous and supportive of welcoming my collection, and I want to publicly announce that the equally generous monetary contributions to the collection I am in turn donating to the Sal Castro Foundation to carry on the work of CYLC and in memory of Sal Castro. I would like to introduce Charlotte Lerchenmuller of the foundation. Charlotte, you'd be so kind to come up and say a few words, and then I'll come back and say some additional words. Charlotte, let's give her a nice hand.
I was going to mention the fact that this is such an apropos time because I don't want to use the word celebrate, but we remembered Sal on Friday, the third anniversary of his death. Along with me today are number one son, Gil Castro, Gil's fiancée, Emily Scheid, and Paula Crisostomo, one of Sal's very favorite best people in his life and part of the Blowouts, walkouts. Friday was the remembrance of the third anniversary of his death. Saturday, we spent at Wilmington Middle School working with the facilitators who will be at the Chicano Youth Leadership Conference next weekend. Apropos fitting. And then here we are today remembering through Mario those talks. Gil, just think of all the money we could have made. We listened to those tapes. We had more than 50 hours. And I had 45 years, Gilbert had 56, 57 years of listening to Sal. And I think maybe we did listen and follow along what he was about. The Chicano Youth Leadership Conference was and is Sal's baby, his legacy. 84% of the 11th grade students who go to that 2.5 days of the miracle in Malibu go on to and graduate from a 4-year college or university. Phenomenal in this day and age. And we were very, very lucky. Well, I just sort of think it's fitting that something happened, and I'm sure Sal had something to do with it, that we have been able to reinstitute CYLC. It's very, very emotional for me to be here, and I sure as hell wish he was too. Mario?
And I know that Sal's with us, and he'll always be with us. In fact, when the book came out shortly after, we were actually here, again thanks to Sean Noriega and Carlos Haro and the Chicano Studies Research Center, and we did a book presentation. We talked about the book. And of course, Sal was always, he was the subject of the book, and we always kidded with each other. I said we were kind of like a Las Vegas act, and I was the teaser. I just kind of, said a few things about doing the book and so forth. Of course, Sal was the main person and so forth. And of course, he always had everyone, just at the palm of his hands. And every time I would hear Sal talk, and when he would come to my classes over many years, he would come to speak in my classes. In any one given academic year, he might come 2 or 3 times. I had heard what I would call Sal's, now that we're in a presidential campaign season, what I would call Sal's stump speech. And I've mentioned this before. I've heard it so many times, and of course, so much of it is in the book, that I always figured that if we had an event and Sal was delayed or he couldn't come, I would just give a stump speech for him. And people have said, that as they've read the book, that I've captured Sal's words, and that makes me feel very good, because that's exactly what we wanted to do, and to get his wonderful voice and his wonderful humor. I want to add that in addition to donating or to turning to the library here at UCLA the specific tapes with Sal, part of the collection will also involves interviews, audio tape interviews that I did with some of the former students, those who were involved in the walkouts. And so the collection will also include my interviews with Paula Crisostomo, with Moctezuma Esparza, with Mita Cuaron, with John Ortiz, and with Vicky Castro. And there's some others, but we're still trying to get their permission to have their taped interviews be part of the collection. We thought it would be nice to have of the people that I just mentioned, who will also be in the collection, to maybe come up and just say a few words as well. And so I'll ask if I can ask Paula and John to come up here now, and each of you just say a few words, if you will. So let's give them a nice hand as they come up here. John, come on up here.
Thank you. I'm so happy and honored and feel very privileged to be here today, and want to add my thanks to Dr. Garcia for his generosity, because I've been involved with Sal Castro since I was a junior in high school, 1966. I went to CYLC in 1967, and I'll be going again this weekend, as I've been doing for the last, every time it's on. So it is a very, very important thing. It is really, really important that we continue to promote Sal's legacy and the good work that he's done. So Mario's work, being here forever and digitized, is certainly going to add to that. So thank you once again, Mario, for surprising me and asking me to come up here to speak. And now I'm going to introduce my friend John Ortiz, who actually coined the term blowout. You can ask him what it means too. John. Good to see you.
How you guys doing? Listen, we had been openly discouraged from thinking about college, and I was told several times that I can understand why, that I was not college material and I was not going to go on to college. And Sal told me different. He said, pick one. I've taught at 4 of them. I've taught at private schools in Europe. I've been, for the past 20 years, sitting on the employment boards for Los Angeles Police Department. It's worth something. The blowout term was a jazz expression that we used in those days. We could go hang out at the lighthouse and listen to jazz records, and hey man, he blew it out, dude. So when it came to the political activity and the mobilization, it was a natural. It just fit. This is part of the local jargon, and I'm very glad and very proud for having participated. When I showed my son, who was now 23 years old and having been educated in Europe, I showed him the Walkout movie. After the movie, he looked at me and said, "Papi, también soy Chicano." Thank you.
Now, when I was starting to do my research and the interviews on the book, I didn't know where the term blowout came from. I didn't know, and people said, talk to John Ortiz. So I did my interview with John, and John told me exactly what he just said. It was a jazz term that he applied to the walkouts. And so John deserves a special, I don't know whether a footnote or certainly some kind of recognition for the fact that he gave a term that stuck to a major historic event, the largest high school student strike in American history. And Sal always was very emphatic about how all of this was part of American history. I mean, it was Chicano history, but he said, this is American history. And of course, this is an American collection. This is an American Studies collection, the Sal Castro collection of audio tapes. I'd like to ask Gil, if you don't mind coming up here and saying a few words as his son, the family. Could you come up and say a few words? Let's give him a hand. Gil Castro.
It's a pleasure to be here. And I gotta thank Mario for the 10 years of interviewing my father. I'm sure none of it was easy. Like Charlie said earlier, we've heard a lot of stories. I've heard probably 56 years of stories from Dad. And for you to sit with him for 10 years and to put together the book is a huge deal. And for you to now turn it over to UCLA is also a big deal for us. Very proud of you, always proud of my dad, Charlotte, Paula, the volunteers that continually help us every year with the conference and to keep my dad's dream come true. Thank you so much.
Now again, Sal was just a tremendous person. I was always impressed that he always called me Dr. Garcia. You know, he rarely called me Mario, he always called me Dr. Garcia, but I always admired that because he had a tremendous respect for other teachers. And of course, I had tremendous respect for him as a teacher. As I mentioned, he was the ultimate teacher, just giving everything to his students. And so, you know, people have asked me over the years of the number of books that I've done. I mean, do you have favorite books? Well, I say, you know, it's kind of a hackneyed phrase. Well, it's like being asked, I mean, do you have a favorite child? You know, well, you know, they're all favorites in some respects, but I'll tell you a secret. This is clearly one of the special ones because of so much time that I spent with Sal and just what a tremendous person and great person that he was, and just to be given the opportunity to write this story up. And but you know, there's so much more that needs to be done, not only about the walkouts. Someone eventually will do a full biography of Sal Castro. And this book, based on my interviews with Sal and with some of the former students, in addition to the collection with the tapes, lays the foundation for someone down the road. Maybe it'll start as a dissertation with an aspiring graduate student who's looking for a topic. Well, here's one right here, you know, do a full biography of Sal Castro. That would be just tremendous. So I'm very fortunate as part of my own life and career to have spent the amount of time that I did with Sal, and I cherish those minutes. To answer Gil, I mean, no, they were not difficult. I mean, I always look forward to spending time with Sal, you know, and I never knew what we would cover. I always knew, as I said, he would have me in stitches, you know, with his tremendous humor, as he did with the students as well, you know. And we've captured a lot of that humor, I think, in the book and so forth. So I'm going to end by again thanking the UCLA Research Library for being willing to house this collection. I know it is in good hands, and I know Sal is also grateful that his story, at least through the audio tapes, are in good hands as well. So we look forward to continued collaboration and continued availability and use for other scholars and for other graduate students and undergraduates to make use of the collection. As I said, we wanted to have a very informal event. There's food up over here, there's things to drink, there's books over there as well. I'm going to move over to that table for any of you that wants me to sign a book. I'll be happy to do that. So everyone circulate. There's a lot of people here who have Sal Castro stories. And so, especially you younger students who are here and so forth, go around, don't be shy, meet with some of these people, and get them to tell you a little bit about their memories of Sal Castro. Anyway, thank you also, Raj. Muchísimas gracias.